My name is Michael Rodriguez, and for 12 years, I believed that marriage meant building something together. A life, a future, a safety net that would protect us through whatever challenges came our way. My wife Jennifer and I had done exactly that, carefully saving $23,000 in an emergency fund that represented years of small sacrifices, skipped dinners out, and careful budgeting. We'd met in our mid-20s, married after a 3-year courtship, and settled into what I thought was a solid partnership. I worked as a software project manager at a tech company, while Jennifer had built a successful career in marketing at a regional firm. Together, we earned enough to live comfortably while still prioritizing our financial security. The emergency fund had been Jennifer's idea, actually. "We need to be prepared for unexpected expenses," she'd said during one of our early financial planning conversations. "Job loss, medical emergencies, major repairs. Life happens and we need to be ready." I'd admired her practical approach to money. We'd agreed that the emergency fund was sacred, only to be touched for genuine crises that threatened our basic security. Over the years, we'd been tempted to dip into it for vacations or home improvements, but we'd always resisted, knowing that our future selves would thank us for the discipline. Before we dive into this story, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment sharing your thoughts on financial boundaries and relationships, and subscribe for more stories of people who discovered their true strength when others tried to take advantage of their generosity. By early 2024, our emergency fund had grown to $23,000, sitting in a high-yield savings account that required both our signatures for withdrawals over $5,000. It represented security, responsibility, and our shared commitment to protecting what we'd built together. Which is why what happened next felt like such a profound betrayal. It started in March, when Jennifer began mentioning how burnt out she felt at work. The demands of her marketing role had intensified over the past year, and she'd been working longer hours on increasingly demanding campaigns. "I need a break, Michael," she said one evening over dinner. "I feel like I'm losing myself in all this stress." "What kind of break are you thinking about?" I asked, genuinely concerned about her well-being. "Maybe a wellness retreat? Somewhere I can disconnect, recharge, get some perspective." "That sounds like a great idea. Have you looked into any specific places?" "Actually, Sarah and Jessica have been talking about doing something similar. Maybe we could plan a group wellness trip. Meditation, yoga, healthy eating, that kind of thing." Sarah and Jessica were Jennifer's college friends who lived in different cities. They'd maintained their friendship through regular video calls and occasional reunions, so a group trip seemed completely reasonable. "How long were you thinking? Maybe a week?" "There's this place in Costa Rica that specializes in wellness retreats. Beautiful location, organic food, daily yoga and meditation sessions." "Jennifer, that sounds perfect. You've been working so hard lately. You deserve some time to recharge." "Really? You wouldn't mind me being gone for a week?" "Of course not. Your mental health is more important than anything else. Besides, I could probably use some time to catch up on my own projects." Over the next few weeks, Jennifer seemed increasingly excited about the trip. She bought new workout clothes, researched meditation techniques, and talked enthusiastically about getting back to her center. But as the departure date approached, I began noticing small inconsistencies that didn't quite add up. Jennifer had always been open about her plans, sharing details about where she was going, who she'd be with, what activities were planned. But when I asked specific questions about the wellness retreat, her answers were oddly vague. "Which resort are you staying at again?" "It's called Serenity Springs. Very exclusive, very focused on holistic wellness." "Are Sarah and Jessica flying from their cities? Or are you all meeting somewhere?" "We're figuring out the logistics. You know how coordinating 3 people's schedules can be." "When do you leave again?" "Thursday morning." Early flight. Her phone behavior had also changed dramatically. Jennifer had never been secretive about her device. She'd answer calls in front of me, leave her phone charging in common areas, and generally treated it as a normal tool rather than something to guard. But over the past month, she'd become protective of her phone in ways I'd never seen before. She'd take it with her to the bathroom, angle the screen away from me when texting, and had started keeping it face down during our conversations. When I mentioned this change jokingly, "You're becoming quite protective of that phone lately," she'd become defensive. "I'm not protective. I just don't like people looking over my shoulder when I'm texting. It's basic privacy. The response felt disproportionate to what had been a light-hearted observation. There was also something different about her energy. Instead of the relaxed anticipation I'd expect from someone planning a restorative wellness retreat, Jennifer seemed nervous, excited, but with an edge of anxiety that didn't match her stated plans. She'd been working out more frequently, buying new clothes, and paying more attention to her appearance than usual. While this could certainly be explained by wanting to feel good for a wellness trip, something about it felt off. The night before her departure, Jennifer was packing when I decided to check our joint banking account to make sure we had sufficient funds for any emergency expenses while she was away. What I found made my blood run cold. A transaction for $7,200 had been processed that afternoon, labeled simply as Travel, Flight Plus Hotel Package. $7,200 for a wellness retreat in Costa Rica. I stared at the computer screen, trying to process what I was seeing. $7,000 was more than we'd ever spent on any vacation, and it was nearly a third of our carefully saved emergency fund. But more concerning was the amount itself. Even allowing for first-class flights and luxury accommodations, $7,200 seemed excessive for a week-long wellness retreat, especially one that was supposedly being split among 3 friends. I looked up from the computer to see Jennifer zipping up her suitcase, humming softly to herself. She seemed completely unconcerned about having just spent more money than we'd allocated for an entire year of vacations. "Jennifer, can I ask you about something?" "Sure, what's up?" "I was checking our account balance, and I saw a charge for $7,200 today. That seems like a lot for a wellness retreat." She froze for just a moment, so briefly that I might have imagined it, before continuing to organize her travel items. "Oh, that. Yeah, it was more expensive than I initially thought. But Michael, this place is supposed to be incredible. Life-changing. Sometimes you have to invest in yourself. I understand that, but $7,200 is a lot of money. That's almost a third of our emergency fund. It's not really emergency fund money, though. I transferred it from our regular savings. But I'd just been looking at the account statements. The money had definitely come from our emergency fund account. Jennifer, the charge shows it came from our emergency savings, the account that's supposed to be for actual emergencies." She turned to face me, and for the first time in our conversation, she looked genuinely irritated. "Michael, I've been working myself to death for the past year. I think I've earned the right to spend some money on my mental health without being interrogated about every detail." "I'm not interrogating you. I'm just surprised by the amount, and I'm concerned about using emergency funds for a vacation." "It's not a vacation, it's a wellness retreat. There's a difference." "Of course I understand that. I just think we should have discussed spending this much money before." "Michael, I don't want to argue about this the night before I leave. I've been looking forward to this trip for weeks, and I don't want to start it with conflict." Something about her tone, the way she'd shut down the conversation rather than addressing my concerns, felt wrong. But I also didn't want to create unnecessary tension before she left for what was supposed to be a restorative experience. "You're right. I'm sorry for bringing it up. I hope you have an amazing time." "Thank you. I love you. I love you too. Have a safe flight." But as I watched Jennifer finish her packing, I couldn't shake the feeling that something important was being left unsaid. That night, after Jennifer had gone to bed, I did something I'd never done before in 12 years of marriage. I logged into our shared email account and searched for recent travel confirmations. What I found would change everything. The booking confirmation was in our shared email account, buried among dozens of promotional messages and routine correspondence. At first glance, it looked like any other travel reservation: flights, hotel, total cost. But as I read more carefully, the details began to paint a picture that made me physically sick. The flight was indeed to Costa Rica, departing Thursday morning as Jennifer had said, but it wasn't to any wellness retreat called Serenity Springs. It was to the Andes Peninsula Papagayo Resort, one of the most expensive luxury resorts in Central America, known for its romantic suites, couples spa services, and secluded beaches. More importantly, the reservation was for 2 people, Jennifer Rodriguez and someone named Marcus Delacroix. I read the name 3 times, hoping I'd made a mistake. Marcus Delacroix. I'd never heard Jennifer mention anyone by that name. Not a friend, not a colleague, not anyone in her social circle that I was aware of. The room booking was for a luxury ocean view suite for 7 nights, with add-ons that made my stomach turn. Couples massage packages, private beach dinners, wine tastings, and something called a romance package that included champagne, chocolate-covered strawberries, and rose petals. This wasn't a wellness retreat with girlfriends. This was a romantic getaway with a man I'd never heard of, paid for with our emergency fund. I scrolled through the email thread and found additional confirmations. First-class flights for both travelers, $3,400 each way. Airport lounge access, priority boarding, seat assignments 1A and 1B. Jennifer had spent $7,200 of our emergency savings to fly first class to a luxury resort with another man. I sat in our home office staring at the computer screen, trying to process the magnitude of what I was seeing. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment or a recently developed attraction. The level of planning required for this trip, the research, the bookings, the lies, suggested something that had been developing for months. But who was Marcus Delacroix? I opened a new browser window and began searching. LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, any platform that might give me information about the man my wife was planning to travel with. Marcus Delacroix, Regional Sales Director at Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. The same industry as Jennifer, probably someone she'd met through work connections, conferences, or client meetings. His LinkedIn profile showed a handsome man in his early 40s with the kind of polished, confident appearance that suggested success and sophistication. His background indicated extensive travel, high-level client management, and leadership positions at several marketing firms. His Facebook profile was more personal, though not private enough to hide the basic details I was looking for. Divorced within the past year, no children visible in his photos, pictures from expensive restaurants, exotic travel destinations, and luxury events. The kind of lifestyle that would appeal to someone feeling burnt out by the routine of marriage and suburban life. I found photos of Marcus at marketing industry events, always impeccably dressed and surrounded by colleagues. In several photos, I could see Jennifer in the background, professional conference settings where they would have had legitimate reasons to interact. But as I scrolled through more recent photos, I began to notice a pattern. Jennifer appeared in more of Marcus's photos over the past 6 months, sometimes in groups, but increasingly in smaller gatherings. A networking happy hour in February, a client dinner in March, a marketing summit just 3 weeks ago where they were seated next to each other, both smiling broadly at the camera. The timeline was becoming clear. Jennifer and Marcus had met through professional channels, developed a relationship over several months, and were now planning to take that relationship to the next level with a luxury vacation paid for by money she'd stolen from our marriage. But the most damaging discovery was yet to come. I searched Jennifer's email for any direct correspondence with Marcus and found dozens of messages going back 4 months. The early emails were professional, coordination about potential client collaborations, industry event planning, shared resources for marketing campaigns. But the tone gradually shifted from professional to personal to intimate. Thanks for the great conversation at the networking event. Would love to continue our discussion over coffee sometime. Jennifer, I can't stop thinking about our lunch yesterday. You have such a unique perspective on client psychology. I know this is complicated given our situations, but I feel a connection with you that I haven't experienced in years. The way you light up when you talk about your creative ideas is incredible. Your husband is lucky to have someone so passionate and intelligent. I keep thinking about what you said about feeling undervalued at home. You deserve someone who sees how amazing you are. I know we agreed to keep things professional, but Jennifer, I'm falling in love with you. The messages became increasingly intimate over the following weeks, with Jennifer responding enthusiastically to Marcus's romantic overtures. Marcus, I feel the same way. I've been married for 12 years, but I've never felt as understood as I do when I'm with you. Our dinner last week was perfect. I haven't felt that alive in years. I know this is wrong, but I can't help how I feel when I'm with you. I've been thinking about what you said about taking a trip together. It feels scary and exciting at the same time. Yes, let's book Costa Rica. I want to see what this could be without any outside pressures. I told Michael it was a wellness retreat with girlfriends. I hate lying to him, but I need to explore these feelings. The resort looks incredible. I can't wait to wake up next to you with no one else around. The final email, sent just 2 days ago, contained their complete itinerary and a message that made my hands shake as I read it. Marcus, I can't believe we're actually doing this. Part of me feels guilty about using our emergency fund, but Michael never would have agreed to let me spend this much on myself. After 12 years of being taken for granted, I deserve to feel special again. I deserve to be with someone who appreciates me. I can't wait to start our new adventure together. I printed every email, every booking confirmation, every piece of evidence that documented Jennifer's affair and her theft of our emergency savings. Then I sat in our office until dawn, trying to figure out what to do with the information that had just destroyed my understanding of our marriage. By the time Jennifer woke up to prepare for her flight, I had made several important decisions. I wouldn't confront her before she left. I wouldn't give her the opportunity to lie, manipulate, or convince me that what I discovered meant something other than what it obviously meant. Instead, I would let Jennifer proceed with her plan exactly as she'd designed it, right up until the moment it fell apart. Thursday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn weather that usually made me optimistic about the day ahead. Jennifer was up early, moving through our house with the nervous energy of someone about to embark on an important journey. "What time is your flight again?" I asked over coffee, maintaining the same casual tone I'd used for 12 years of marriage. 11:30? I need to be at the airport by 9:30 for first-class check-in. First class. She said it naturally, as if spending $3,400 each way for premium seats was a normal part of wellness retreat planning. That's smart, getting first class for such a long trip. More comfortable for sleeping. Exactly. Sarah insisted we splurge since we're investing so much in this experience anyway. Another lie, delivered effortlessly while she buttered her toast. I watched Jennifer finish her breakfast, marveling at how easily deception seemed to come to her. There was no visible guilt, no hesitation, no sign that she was about to betray 12 years of marriage with money stolen from our emergency fund. "Do you need a ride to the airport?" I offered. "No, I'm taking an Uber. That way you don't have to deal with airport traffic, and I don't have to worry about parking." More likely, she didn't want me to see her meeting Marcus at the departure gate. "That makes sense. Will you text me when you land safely?" "Of course. The resort has limited Wi-Fi, so I might not be in touch much during the week, but I'll check in when I can." "I understand. Focus on relaxing and recharging. That's what this trip is for." Jennifer smiled and kissed me goodbye. The same goodbye kiss she'd given me thousands of times before, now knowing it was based on a lie so comprehensive that it redefined our entire relationship. I love you, Michael. I love you too. Have an amazing time. After Jennifer left for the airport, I began implementing the plan I'd developed during my sleepless night. First, I called our bank and spoke with a customer service representative about account security. "I'd like to place fraud alerts on all accounts associated with my name," I explained. "I've noticed some unusual activity that concerns me." "Of course, Mr. Rodriguez. Can you tell me what kind of activity you've observed?" "Large, unexpected charges that don't match our normal spending patterns. I want to ensure no unauthorized transactions can be processed." "I understand. I can place temporary holds on all cards and require authorization for any charges over $500. Would that be helpful?" "Yes, and I'd also like to transfer funds from our joint savings account to a new individual account. I'm concerned about unauthorized access." "I can help you with that. How much would you like to transfer?" "The entire balance. Approximately $16,000. The remaining emergency fund money after Jennifer's $7,200 theft. I'll process that transfer immediately and provide you with new account numbers and access codes." Within an hour, Jennifer's access to our shared financial resources had been completely severed. Our joint checking account contained only enough money for routine monthly expenses. The emergency fund, what was left of it, was now in an account only I could access. Next, I called my office and took a personal day. I had more important things to handle than project deadlines. I drove to the law office of Patricia Martinez, a family attorney who'd been recommended by a colleague who'd gone through his own difficult divorce. "Mr. Rodriguez, what brings you in today?" I handed Patricia the folder of evidence I'd compiled: bank statements, email printouts, booking confirmations, and a timeline of Jennifer's deception. My wife is currently on her way to Costa Rica with her affair partner, using money she stole from our emergency fund. I need to understand my legal options. Patricia reviewed the documents carefully, occasionally making notes or asking clarifying questions. Mr. Rodriguez, this is quite comprehensive documentation. How long have you known about the affair? I discovered it last night. She thinks I believe she's on a wellness retreat with girlfriends. And you haven't confronted her about any of this? No, I wanted to understand my legal position before taking any action. That was wise. Mr. Rodriguez, based on what you've shown me, you have grounds for divorce based on adultery and financial misconduct. The theft of marital assets to fund an extramarital affair is particularly damaging to her position. What are my options? We can file for divorce immediately and seek emergency orders to protect your remaining assets. We can also pursue reimbursement for the funds she misappropriated. How quickly can this be processed? I can have papers prepared today and filed tomorrow morning. Mr. Rodriguez, I have to ask, are you certain you want to proceed this aggressively? Many couples attempt counseling or reconciliation before pursuing divorce. I thought about Patricia's question. 12 hours ago, I might have considered trying to save our marriage. But the evidence I discovered showed that Jennifer's betrayal wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a calculated deception that had been planned for months. Patricia, my wife, spent 4 months planning to steal our emergency fund and use it for a romantic vacation with another man. She lied to me daily, created elaborate stories about wellness retreats and girlfriend trips, and is currently on a first-class flight to Costa Rica while I'm discovering the extent of her deception. I understand. This isn't someone who made a mistake. This is someone who systematically betrayed our marriage while making me complicit in funding her affair. Then we'll proceed with filing. I'll have the papers ready for service when she returns. Actually, Patricia, I'd like to explore one other option. What's that? I'd like to ensure Jennifer understands the consequences of her choices as immediately as possible. By 2 p.m., I had accomplished several important tasks. Jennifer's access to our joint accounts had been frozen. The remaining emergency fund had been transferred to my individual account. Divorce papers had been prepared and would be filed the next morning. I had contacted a locksmith to change the locks on our house. I had photographed and inventoried all of Jennifer's personal belongings. At 2:47 p.m., I received a text notification from our bank. Transaction attempted. $847. Declined. Suspected fraud. Jennifer had just tried to use her credit card at the airport, probably for last-minute purchases or meals before boarding. At 3:15 p.m., transaction attempted. $1,200. Declined. Suspected fraud. At 3:22 p.m., transaction attempted. $73. Declined. Suspected fraud. Jennifer was discovering that her access to our money had been completely cut off. My phone rang at 3:30 p.m. Jennifer's name appeared on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 3:32 p.m., again at 3:35 p.m. At 3:40 p.m., she sent a text. Michael, my cards aren't working. Can you call the bank and fix whatever's wrong? I didn't respond. At 4:15 p.m. Michael, this is urgent. I'm at the airport and my cards are being declined. Please call me back immediately. At 4:30 p.m. Michael, I know you're getting these messages. Something is wrong with our accounts and I need your help. At 4:45 p.m. I'm about to miss my flight because of this banking issue. Please call me back right now. I turned off my phone and went for a walk around our neighborhood, thinking about how dramatically our lives were about to change. When I returned home an hour later, I had 7 missed calls and 12 text messages from Jennifer, each more desperate than the last. The final message, sent at 5:23 p.m., read, "Got on the flight using Marcus's card. We'll figure out the banking issue when I get back. This better be a simple technical problem." Perfect. Jennifer was on her way to Costa Rica, completely unaware that her marriage had ended the moment I discovered her betrayal. She thought she was beginning the most romantic week of her life. She had no idea she was actually flying toward the complete destruction of everything she'd built over the past 12 years. And unlike Jennifer's deception, which had required months of planning and daily lies, my response had taken less than 8 hours to implement. By the time she landed in Costa Rica, Jennifer would discover that stealing from your spouse to fund an affair has consequences that extend far beyond a declined credit card. She was about to learn that trust, once broken, can't be repaired with explanations or apologies. And she was about to discover that the husband she'd been deceiving for months had been taking very careful notes. While Jennifer was discovering the limits of Marcus's financial generosity 3,000 miles away, I was methodically documenting everything that had transpired. Screenshots of declined transactions, recordings of voicemails, copies of increasingly frantic text messages, all evidence that would be useful in divorce proceedings. But the real satisfaction came from the notifications I kept receiving from our banking apps. Each attempted transaction told a story of Jennifer's growing desperation and Marcus's reluctance to fund their romantic getaway with his own money. 5:47 p.m. Transaction attempted. $127. Declined 6:03 p.m. Transaction attempted. $89. Declined 6:15 p.m. Transaction attempted. $2,340. Declined, that last one was particularly interesting. $2,340 suggested they were trying to upgrade their accommodations or add expensive experiences to their trip. Probably Marcus testing whether Jennifer had access to the kind of money she'd implied when planning their affair. At 7:30 p.m., my phone rang with a call from an international number. Costa Rica country code. I answered on the fourth ring. Michael. Thank God you answered. What the hell is going on with our accounts? Jennifer's voice was tight with stress, and I could hear airport noise in the background. Hello, Jennifer. How's your wellness retreat going? Don't give me that. My cards aren't working, our online banking is locked, and I can't access any of our money. Did you freeze our accounts? I placed fraud protection on our accounts after noticing some unusual activity. Unusual activity? What unusual activity? Well, for example, someone used our emergency fund to book a $7,200 romantic vacation to Costa Rica. That seemed unusual since my wife told me she was going on a wellness retreat with girlfriends. The silence on the other end of the line lasted nearly 30 seconds. Michael, I can explain. I'm sure you can. You've been explaining things very creatively for the past 4 months. How did you... What do you know? I know about Marcus Delacroix. I know about the Andes Peninsula Papagayo Resort. I know about the couple's massage packages and the romance suite and the first-class flights you booked for you and your affair partner using money we saved for emergencies. Michael, please let me explain. This isn't what you think. Jennifer, I have 4 months of emails between you and Marcus. I have hotel receipts and restaurant charges and evidence of an affair that you planned and funded with our emergency savings while lying to my face every single day. I was going to tell you... When? When were you going to tell me? After you spent a week in a luxury resort with another man? After you came home and continued lying about wellness retreats and girlfriend trips? I could hear Jennifer crying, but I felt no sympathy. I'd cried too when I discovered the extent of her betrayal. Michael, I made a mistake. I know I hurt you, but we can work through this. Jennifer, you didn't make a mistake. Mistakes are accidental. You planned this affair for months. You stole money from our emergency fund to pay for it. You created elaborate lies to cover your tracks. Those aren't mistakes. They're calculated betrayals. Please, can we just talk about this when I get home? Can you unlock the account so I can... No. What do you mean, no? I mean, no, I won't unlock the accounts. No, we won't work through this. And no, you won't be coming home to our house. Michael, you can't be serious? Jennifer, I've filed for divorce. You'll be served with papers when you return from your romantic vacation. The locks on our house have been changed. Your personal belongings will be packed and waiting for you. You can't just kick me out of my own house. It's not your house, Jennifer. It's my house. The mortgage is in my name, the deed is in my name, and the down payment came from my inheritance. You have no legal claim to property you never owned. Michael, please. Jennifer, I want you to understand something. 4 months ago, you could have come to me and said you were unhappy in our marriage. You could have asked for counseling, for changes. for anything that might have addressed whatever was driving you to look outside our relationship. I tried to tell you I was unhappy. No, you didn't try to tell me anything. You told me you were burnt out from work. You never mentioned being unhappy in our marriage. You never suggested counseling or changes or anything that indicated you wanted to improve our relationship. I didn't know how to bring it up. But you knew how to plan a 4-month affair. You knew how to steal our emergency fund. You knew how to create elaborate lies about wellness retreats. You found plenty of ways to betray our marriage. You just couldn't find a way to try saving it. Jennifer was sobbing now, but I continued. You chose to handle your unhappiness by deceiving me and stealing from our shared future. You chose to mock the trust I gave you and the commitment I made to our marriage. Those were your choices, Jennifer, and now you get to live with the consequences. Michael, I love you. No, Jennifer, you don't love me. People who love each other don't steal their emergency funds to pay for affairs. People who love each other don't lie for months about wellness retreats while planning romantic vacations with other people. But I do love you. You love the security I provided. You love having someone who trusted you completely and never questioned your stories. You love having access to money you could steal to fund your affair. But that's not love, Jennifer. That's exploitation. Please, just give me a chance to make this right. You can't make this right. You can't unsteal our emergency fund. You can't unlie about 4 months of deception. You can't uncheat on our marriage. The damage is done, and it's permanent. Michael, Jennifer, enjoy your romantic vacation. It's the most expensive week of your life, and it's going to cost you everything you had before you left. I hung up and turned off my phone. Over the next hour, Jennifer sent dozens of text messages from Marcus's phone, ranging from desperate pleas for forgiveness to angry demands that I restore her access to our accounts. But the most revealing message came at 9:15 p.m. Marcus is saying he can't afford to cover all the expenses for this trip. He thought I had access to more money. Michael, I need you to unlock our accounts or this whole trip is going to be ruined. Perfect. Marcus had planned their romantic getaway assuming Jennifer could fund it with stolen money from her marriage. Now that her theft had been discovered and her access cut off, he was balking at paying for the luxury vacation himself. Jennifer was learning the difference between a man who helps you steal from your spouse and a man who's willing to support you when the theft is discovered. I smiled and went to bed, sleeping better than I had in months. The next morning brought news that confirmed my suspicions about Marcus's commitment to their relationship. Friday morning, I woke up to find my phone flooded with notifications, missed calls, voicemails, text messages, and even a few attempted video calls from Jennifer. I scrolled through the messages chronologically, watching her emotional state deteriorate in real time as the consequences of her choices became clear. Thursday, 11:47 p.m. Costa Rica time. Michael, Marcus, and I had a huge fight about money. He's saying this trip is too expensive and he can't cover everything. Please call me back. Friday, 12:23 a.m. Michael, I'm begging you. I need access to our accounts. Marcus is threatening to leave early if I can't pay for my portion of everything. Friday, 1:15 a.m. Michael, answer your phone. Marcus left the resort. He went back to his room and won't answer his door. I'm alone in Costa Rica with no money and no way to pay for anything. Friday, 2:30 a.m. He's gone. Marcus checked out of the hotel and took the next flight back to the U.S. He said he wasn't going to pay thousands of dollars for someone else's marital problems. Michael, I need help. Friday, 3:45 a.m. I had to call the resort manager and explain that there was a problem with my payment method. They're letting me stay through checkout tomorrow, but I have to settle the bill before I leave. That's $4,200. Friday, 5:20 a.m. Michael, I know you're angry, but I'm stranded. I can't pay for the hotel. I can't change my flight. I can't even afford food. Please, I'm scared. Friday, 6:30 a.m. I called my parents. They wired me $500 for food and transportation, but they want to know why I can't access our accounts. What am I supposed to tell them? Friday, 7:45 a.m. The hotel is threatening to call the police if I don't settle my bill by checkout time. Michael, whatever you think I did, I don't deserve this. That last message made me laugh out loud. Whatever she thought she did, she'd stolen our emergency fund to pay for an affair, lied about it for months, and was now claiming she didn't deserve consequences for her choices. I made coffee and checked my email, where I found a message from Patricia Martinez confirming that divorce papers had been filed and would be served upon Jennifer's return. At 9 a.m., I called Jennifer's parents. "Hello, Robert. This is Michael." "Michael, thank God you called. Jennifer contacted us in a panic saying she's stranded in Costa Rica and can't access your bank accounts. Is everything okay?" "Robert, I need to tell you something, and it's going to be difficult to hear." "What's going on?" "Jennifer isn't in Costa Rica on a wellness retreat with girlfriends. She's there with a man named Marcus Delacroix, having an affair that she's been conducting for 4 months." Silence. "She stole $7,200 from our emergency fund to pay for first-class flights and a luxury resort for herself and her affair partner. She lied to both of us about the purpose of the trip." "Michael, that can't be true." "Robert, I have 4 months of emails between Jennifer and Marcus planning this affair. I have hotel receipts from previous meetings. I have booking confirmations for their romantic vacation. She's been lying to all of us." "Oh my God." "The reason she can't access our accounts is because I froze them when I discovered she'd stolen our emergency money to fund her affair. I filed for divorce." Robert was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was shaking. "Michael, I am so sorry. We had no idea. If we'd known Jennifer was lying to you—" "Robert, you couldn't have known. She lied to everyone. But I wanted you to hear this from me before Jennifer tries to convince you that I'm the problem. What can we do? How can we help?" Just be prepared for Jennifer to ask for financial support when she realizes the consequences of her choices. She's about to discover that affairs are expensive when you can't steal money to pay for them. After I hung up with Robert, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. Sadness that our families would be torn apart by Jennifer's choices, but relief that the people who mattered to me would understand the truth. Saturday brought the news I'd been expecting. Jennifer's flight landed at Denver International Airport at 2:30 p.m. I knew because I'd checked the flight status, not out of concern for her welfare, but because I wanted to time the next phase of my response. At 3:45 p.m., a process server was waiting at our front door when Jennifer's taxi pulled into our driveway. I watched from the window as Jennifer got out of the cab, looking exhausted and defeated after her disastrous vacation. She approached our front door and noticed the manila envelope taped prominently to the wood. She opened it and began reading. Even from inside the house, I could see her body language change as she realized what she was holding. Divorce petition, financial asset declaration, temporary restraining order preventing her from accessing any accounts in my name, complete documentation of her affair and financial misconduct. Jennifer tried her key in the front door lock. It didn't work. She tried the back door, also changed. She sat on our front steps and called me. "Michael, I'm home. The locks are changed and there's a divorce petition taped to our door." "Yes, that's correct. You can't lock me out of my own house. It's not your house, Jennifer. It's my house. Check the deed if you're confused about the ownership. My clothes are in there. My personal belongings are packed in boxes on the back porch. Everything that belongs to you is there. Michael, please. Can we at least talk about this? Can you let me come inside so we can discuss what happened?" "Jennifer, we're past the discussion phase. You had 4 months to discuss your unhappiness with our marriage. Instead, you chose to steal our emergency fund and lie about having an affair." "I made a mistake." "You made dozens of mistakes, Jennifer. Every lie you told was a mistake. Every dollar you stole was a mistake. Every email you sent to Marcus was a mistake. At what point do repeated mistakes become deliberate choices?" "Michael, I know I hurt you, but people make mistakes in marriages. People work through these things. Some people work through some things, but some betrayals are too comprehensive to overcome." "What do you mean?" "I mean that you didn't just have an affair, Jennifer. You systematically deceived me for months while stealing our money to fund your deception. You lied to our families, our friends, and me about fundamental aspects of your life. But we can rebuild trust. Jennifer, how do I trust someone who was lying to me while I was making her breakfast? How do I trust someone who was planning romantic vacations with other men while I was working extra hours to build our financial security? I don't know, but we can figure it out. No, we can't figure it out. Because even now, sitting on our front steps after your affair partner abandoned you in Costa Rica, you're still trying to minimize what you did. I'm not minimizing anything. You called it a mistake. Jennifer spending $7,200 of our emergency fund on a romantic vacation with another man isn't a mistake. It's theft. It's adultery. It's a fundamental betrayal of everything our marriage was supposed to represent. Michael, I'm sorry. I'm sure you are sorry. Sorry you got caught. Sorry your affair partner abandoned you when he realized you couldn't steal enough money to pay for his luxury vacation. Sorry you're facing consequences for your choices. That's not fair. What's not fair is working for 12 years to build financial security with someone who steals it to fund an affair. What's not fair is trusting someone completely while they laugh about your naivety with their lover. Jennifer was crying now, but I felt no sympathy. I'd done my crying when I discovered her betrayal. Jennifer, you need to find somewhere else to live. You need to find a way to support yourself. And you need to accept that our marriage is over. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. Michael, please. Jennifer, you chose Marcus over our marriage. You chose deception over honesty. You chose theft over trust. Those were your choices, and now you get to live with them. I hung up and watched through the window as Jennifer sat on our front steps for another hour, probably hoping I'd change my mind and let her inside. But I didn't change my mind, because I'd finally learned the difference between forgiveness and enabling, between compassion and being taken advantage of. Jennifer had bet our entire marriage on the assumption that I would always forgive her, always trust her, always be there when she needed support. She'd lost that bet. At 5:30 p.m., Jennifer's parents arrived to pick her up. I watched Robert load her boxes into their car while Jennifer cried on her mother's shoulder. As they drove away, I realized that for the first time in months, I felt completely at peace, at peace, at peace, at peace, at peace, at peace, at peace.